Well, one of the most commonly asked questions that I ever get asked when people know that I'm on a vegan diet is, where do you get your protein from? I find that an interesting question because what I say is that the same place that the cow gets its protein, and that is basically from plant food. In fact, that's where protein originates from. Originally, is from it's one of the many processes that occurs after the photosynthesis, and the plant is it's creating cells. It creates proteins as well. So that's ultimately where protein comes from. Now, the reason a lion gets protein is because the wildebeest or the zebra that it's eating was eating some grass earlier at some stage, and it got its protein, and so the lion is eating the animal that way and getting its protein, but it's getting it from a second-hand source. But as human beings, I believe that we should be getting our protein from the primary source, which is from plant foods. And when I say that, a lot of people think, well, aren't we supposed to be omnivorous animals? And when you look at our physiology, if you look at we've got a little tooth there which we call the canine, but that's not really a genuine canine in the sense of say what a cat or a dog has, or a lion or a tiger. They've got a massive fang and very small front teeth. We have very big front teeth and very small canines, a little bit like sheep. Sheep have got bigger canines than us, which are great for ripping into those very fibrous plant foods. So our teeth are like a herbivorous animal. We've got jaws that move from side to side. Only the herbivorous animals have that. If you look at a pet cat or dog, they've got a jaw that moves up and down like a trapdoor. Same with a crocodile, a shark, a lion, or a tiger. If you look at the hydrochloric acid strength in our stomach, it's about 1/10 of that of an omnivore, like a dog, and 1/100 of that of a carnivore, like a lion. Now, when I say that, people say, well, hang on a second, a dog, are you saying a dog is an omnivore? And well, yeah, I mean, when they look at what feral dogs eat in the wild, or dingoes or wolves, a lot of the time they struggle to find a dead animal to eat, and they're nibbling away at little fruits and berries and grasses and roots and all sorts of plant foods. And a large majority of what they're actually eating is actually plant-based foods out in the wild. In fact, interestingly, the longest living dog in the world was a dog that lived in England to 27 years of age, and its owners were giving the dog organic fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds. And so a vegan dog, effectively. So so dogs as an omnivore thrive on a plant-based diet, but human beings should thrive even more, because we've got intestines that are very long and convoluted, and about 3 times the size of an omnivorous or carnivorous animal of the same size as us. And it's got intestinal villi in there. It's got all of these convolutions, which are again only found in herbivorous animals. So for us, protein should come from plant sources. It should come from the straight-chained proteins rather than the spiral-chain proteins that release so many acids in the process of eating them. Like, for example, uric acid, sulfuric acid, nitric acid that you get from a lot of the animal proteins. Whereas you don't get that level of acidity. In fact, you get a very alkaline product when you eat vegetables. So definitely, vegetables are the best source of protein for human beings. And whilst mother's milk has something like about 1 to 3% or 4% protein, just about every vegetable and fruit has got a minimum of about 3% protein anyway. So you're never going to be protein deficient, even if you wanted to be as a vegan or a vegetarian. It's quite interesting that even someone like Bobby Sands, who went on a hunger strike in 1981, died after 78 days. He only lost 19% of his protein and virtually all of his fat. So it wasn't protein that was the main issue. So we have no problems getting protein. Many years ago, they thought that you needed to, as a vegetarian, need to combine different foods in order to get the right mix of essential amino acids. And that's since been proven not to be the case. That the body stores essential amino acids for long periods of times, and as long as you're eating a healthy, balanced diet, you get all the amino acids that you need. And so protein deficiency is a complete non-issue. Having too much protein, especially too much animal protein, is a problem, and that is probably the basis for probably 80% of people that are in hospitals at the moment. It's been estimated. So that is certainly a concern. And in fact, when you look at athletes like Carl Lewis, who said that he couldn't have performed as well as he did in winning 10 Olympic medals, 9 gold, more than any athlete in history, he said he couldn't have done it without a vegan diet. So and he certainly had plenty of energy. You look at some of the strongest animals in the animal kingdom, like the gorilla. It eats bamboo leaves and bananas, and there's even footage of a gorilla lifting an elephant and throwing it. And that's how strongly these animals are. Amazingly strong. Some of I think they're the strongest animal in the animal kingdom. And so we don't have someone from the FDA going up to a gorilla and saying, well, you should be eating the flesh of another animal. So that's what I say when people ask about protein. But one question that I often get asked is about B12, vitamin B12. And a lot of people are under the idea that you need to eat animal foods to get B12, because they say, well, it's in animal foods, but it's not in plant-based foods, so that proves that you need to eat animal foods. Well, I have a number of things to comment on that. The first one is that the vitamin B12, or cyanocobalamin, is not produced by animals. It's actually produced by bacteria. And that bacteria, yes, can live and do live in the intestines of animals. They live in our intestines as well. They also live in our mouth and in a number of other places, and they're produced all the time in different ways. And they also produced by bacteria that live in the soil, bacteria that live on the surface of the leaves of plants, that also live in running streams, and occasionally are blown by the wind as well. So that they're all over the place. But what's happening now these days is that there's less and less of it around, because when you go to a field and you spray with pesticides, that destroys B12. When you ingest anything with preservatives work by killing bacteria and also kill B12. When you have alcohol has been known to preserve things very well, and it also works by killing bacteria, and it kills B12. Caffeine will do that. Chlorine's known to kill bacteria. That's why they use it in water. It kills B12, as does fluoride, as does benzene and propylene, as caffeine. I could go on. There's about 50 different substances, benzene, all of these toxic substances that shouldn't be in the body, that lead to B12 not being present in the levels that it was in the past. So now it's an issue whether you're vegan, vegetarian, omnivore, whatever, and they're giving B12 injections to cattle. They're putting supplements in their feed. So it's recognised that it's a problem. But what's interesting, though, I believe is more interesting than the B12 or the lack of B12 is more the fact that all these other toxins and contaminants are present that are leading to that problem, and it's the presence of those contaminants is actually more of a concern than the B12 deficiency as such, and it seems from a lot of the new research that it's the B12 is a marker of health rather than being the cause of a lot of illnesses. For example, it's been speculated that anemia is largely due to a B12 deficiency, pernicious anemia, but in actual fact that when you give people folate alone, it's enough to reverse that, and so it's not really B12 there, but then there's some new studies that are looking at B12 deficiencies leading to nerve damage and brain problems and so forth. But again, when you have a B12 deficiency, usually it's because of some underlying problem that's of a more serious concern, and it's usually a whole lot of acids in the body that are leading to this. There's a raw food athlete by the name of Dr. Doug Graham, and he had one patient that had no B12 in their blood whatsoever. He then put them on a water fast for 7 days, so they had nothing to eat or drink for 7 days, and then their B12 levels came back to normal. Why? Because in that detoxification stage, all of the toxins were eliminated, were destroying the B12, and then the normal B12 levels were able to come back to normal. So, and then you look at people like Donald Watson, who started the Vegan Society and lived to 94 years of age, and he never had a pill, a supplement, injection, or anything like that for his whole life of any kind, no vitamins or anything like that. And he was writing in his journal entries right up to the very last day, at the age of 94, suffered no B12 deficiencies at all. So, but if someone is concerned about B12, there are plenty of plant-based sources of that. They're culturing some on barks of trees, for example, in other ways, and growing them on mushrooms and all sorts of things. And so that they're adding them, they're fortifying foods with them, and they're providing all kinds of supplements. So if someone was concerned about that, then the people have got that avenue anyway. But I believe if we were growing everything naturally and in the way that we should be, B12 deficiency wouldn't really be an issue.